Hi, everyone. It's good to be with you today. Today I'm going to talk about a book in the Bible that a lot of people may not be that familiar with, but it is the book of Hosea. It's found right after the book of Daniel in the prophets. And there's a really interesting story here, and I'm going to read a little bit. But what this story tells us more than anything else, that God's love never fails. So starting at verse 13 in Hosea 2, it says, "I will punish her for the days she burned incense to the Baals. She decked herself with rings and jewelry and went after her lovers, but me she forgot." And this is because the children of Israel had begun to worship other gods. They had turned their back on the one true God, and they were now coming under judgment because of what had happened. And God tells this prophet Hosea to go out and take for himself a wife who is a harlot. And Hosea does what he's told. And we're going to go in verse 14. It says, "Therefore I am now going to allure her. I will lead her into the desert and speak tenderly to her. There I will give her back her vineyards and will make the valleys of Achor a door of hope. There she will sing as in the days of her youth, as in the days she came out of Egypt." And as we read this story in Hosea, we hear where Hosea's wife goes out many times and she's unfaithful, and then she comes home, and then she goes out and she's unfaithful and she comes home. But each time the Lord tells Hosea to take her back. So reading on here, in that day, declares the Lord, "You will call me my husband. You will no longer call me my master. I will remove the names of Baal from her lips. No longer will their names be invoked. In that day I will make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field and the birds of the air and the creature that moves along the ground. Bow and sword and battle I will abolish from the land, so that all may lie down in safety. I will betroth you to me forever. I will betroth you in righteousness and justice. I will love and betroth you, and you will acknowledge the Lord." And this whole story is the story of redemption. This is the story of God and what Jesus did for us. He was the God to the children of Israel all through their time in the desert, all through those years, and yet they continually would turn away from him. But God did not turn away from them. God never turns away from us. The key verses I saw here were from 13 to 20, where it talks about how God will restore, will bring back. And it reminds me of another story in the New Testament of Luke, chapter 15. And it is the story of the prodigal son. And I'm going to turn to that now. And in Luke 15, verse 13, it says, that's 31. It says, "My son, the father said, 'You are always with me, and everything I have is yours.' But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours who was dead is alive again. He was lost and he is found." And this was the story of the prodigal son, and I know it's found in Luke. And it talks about a son who takes his inheritance and goes out and squanders it. This man has two sons, and the one son is sort of upset that when his brother comes back after wasting everything, and he'd been there faithful all the time, that his father is honoring his brother when he comes home. But see, that's what God does. It doesn't matter how far we get or how far we go away from God's love. Whenever we turn and decide to come home, God is there for us. He's there with open arms. So, I think a lot of times we think, well, I was serving the Lord and then I did some things and I got away, but you can never get away from God's love. There's no place you can go that can be outside of God's love. And there's no time at which you cannot turn back and once again become God's child. And so as you read through the Bible, and I hope you will, and read these stories for yourself so that you can see what these stories really mean, how God comes after us time and time and time again. And he says, I don't care what you've done. All I care is that you've come back to me. So if you're out there and you feel like you've gotten away from God and you really can't come back because you're embarrassed or you're ashamed or whatever, put that aside and think only of how much your God is waiting for you, loving you, and saying, come home. All will be well. So thank you guys for listening today, and I hope that this blessed you, and I hope that you will spend some time looking at both these stories in the Bible and see for yourself how God over and over again proves that his love can never fail. God bless you all. See you next time. Bye.